Hello, my chess friends. Good to see you again. Perhaps it is time for another Dragodorf in action. I know I made a first video in which I'd explained the basics of the Dragodorf, the Sicilian, the hybrid in between the dragon and the Najdorf. Now I want to show you a game. I played it myself 2 days ago on chess.com. So it's a very decent game with very good moves played by both white and black. And I think it's useful for those of you that love playing the Sicilians and particularly the Dragodorf. So let's proceed and discuss these ideas together. Okay, so we start with e4, c5, knight f3. Okay, so these are theoretical approaches and not too much to comment about. d4 takes and knight takes. Now, knight f6, attacking, let me just make a few arrows here, attacking on e4, normally knight to c3, the natural defense here, and g6. So that already gives the signal that black is planning on to playing the bishop perhaps at some point. Now you're going to see in my case here I didn't do it because I wanted to save a tempo, giving it into attacking rather than playing on g7, and I'm gonna explain exactly what I did. So bishop e3, and I already understood here that my opponent wants to play a battery with queen on d2, which is exactly the traditional way to play, especially the Yugoslav with f3, g4 and h4. White is aiming at trading on h6 and getting rid of this bishop, which normally is quite dangerous, especially if white castles queenside. So that being said, I chose to play a6. So that resembles a bit of the Najdorf, okay? Now, a6 here plays multiple functions. Not just that it takes any attempt from the knight away and obviously preventing the bishop to play on b5 or any of the two white knights, but also prepares a b5. Obviously, probably a b4 as well at some point, and combined with d5 could be that counterattack that black wants to play. So f3, and now I chose to play knight to d7. Now this knight wants to go either e5 and c4 or b6 and c4 because this knight really wants to arrive here. Okay, so that's the plan. That was the idea. I want to develop on the queen side, delaying on the king side development, because if white again castles on the queen side, it's very important that we get our pieces on the queen side. b5. So that makes my opponent to think, and they hadn't castled the king on the queen side just yet. They were absolutely aware that actually things are going to get hidden up on the queen side here. So for this reason, to prevent me to pushing the pawn on b5, they chose to do a3. Here, continue my development with bishop to b7. I think it looks absolutely fine, very playable. And now my opponent didn't castle queenside, but instead they chose to do bishop e2. Now, here, of course, I could do bishop g7. There is also the possibility with h5, okay, which will maintain the so to speak, confusion to my opponent because they don't know where the target is or if I'm going to castle. So I didn't do neither of that, but I chose to play instead rook to c8. Okay, rook to c8. Normally, it's that thing you want to do, especially if white were to castle on the queen side. So for this reason, I chose to just simply get more power to the queen side attack. g4 now, they didn't castle, they didn't tell me if they want to do queen side or king side, but for the time being, my opponent chooses exactly the same path, focusing on attacking rather than defending or castling the king. Okay, so here I chose to do knight to e5, exactly as I said in the beginning, my chess friends. I would love to go to c4 if I have a chance. Bishop to h6, and I think this is an important point in the game. So here I've taken the decision during the game that I would trade the bishop. I would take the bishop with my bishop. luring the queen away from the queen side and implicitly from defending the knight on c3, where I've already decided I am going to sack the rook. So what I played was bishop takes, and that forces my opponent to take on h6. And now I just decided to play first queen to b6 because I want to attack here. I think that looks absolutely reasonable here. So that's an attacking move. Okay. They've castled long now, and that was a further encouragement for me, and I took the decision to capture on c3. Again, my queen was attacking, my opponent didn't want to waste any more other defending moves. They chose to keep the queen on h6, probably because they want to do this kind of incursions here, but I was prepared in case they were choosing to do that. So after they've castled long, I took on c3. And if you look at the position here, I think I'm pretty much happy to playing this with black. And if you're going to put it on your own engines at home, guys, you will see that the position is balanced with maybe a couple of tens either for white or for black, depends on what you're going to choose to play next. Now, I went for a very natural attacking move, queen a5, which targets the a3 and the c3 pawns at the same time. And my opponent has to play something that actually exposes the king a bit more if they want to defend both pawns at the same time, which is on c3, on a3. And I'm very comfortable with this. The fact that I've sacrificed the rook for this kind of attacking position, it really, it's very appealing to my own character in playing this kind of positions. So now I played something which is not the wisest stuff. Now the engine recommends here that we do with black something like knight to d7, knight e to d7, and the purpose would be, guys, to just go c5 and a4, you see. So this kind of ideas here would be preferable to do. I didn't do that, and I chose to play knight to c4, which is not the strongest move for black here. Obviously, I want to attack on a3. Now, my opponent took, and I took myself. And it was clear for me at this point that all I needed to do was just to get this rook on the b, and obviously attacking more the white king. So white didn't waste any time. They really wanted to attack a bit quicker than myself. I moved the king onto d7, so now my rook is absolutely free to go on the b file. That was something that actually wasn't the strongest stuff, because obviously I'm not going to reinforce my rook. I'm just going to go for direct attack, fully aware that actually this guy is sort of hanging, but my opponent cannot take on f7. That would be a great mistake if white were to do that, because it's a discovered check coming here. So very dangerous. If they took, I would have played bishop to d5, winning the queen. So they couldn't possibly done that. They should have actually played something like rook to b1 or king to a2. So one of these two moves are being the best moves here. But now he sort of blundered, so he gave me a full piece, which I took, and they took it back. Again, here the best moves were either queen to b5, aligning with the rook, again threatening this kind of possible moves, or even total bishop sacrifice on e4. But obviously I should have aligned my queen on the same file with the black rook, but I didn't do that, unfortunately. So I sort of watered down my whole attack, and I played on c8 because I thought it's more direct attacking the white king, which is not bad in itself. I'm still doing much better than white here, with the -2 given by the almighty omniscient engine here, Stockfish. So they had defended, and now obviously again king e6, although is being suggested here by the engine, I thought about playing it myself, but I was really concerned about those pawns coming down, and I said, look, let me just have the king here. And obviously, if they were to just push the pawn, just simply this guy could have been just simply taken by the pawn, whereas now, if the pawn is coming down, I have to move the knight. So I didn't play king to a6, but instead I took. I took because I realized after day take I would be able to attack two rooks at the same time with my bishop. And that's exactly what I played. He moved the other rook from AH1. I took, and he took. And this is the position. This is the position with a bit of an advantage for black here. My opponent suggested to having a draw, and because I was absolutely aware that I need to play this incredibly, incredibly carefully, and time wasn't very generous on my clock. I think I had 3 minutes on my time. I said, look, I'm accepting the draw. Now, at a correct play, black should be winning here. You got to play this one correctly. You're either pushing this guy here, stopping the pawn from coming down. If they take, you're going to take back with the queen here on h5. Just being careful, because during the game I was... And I remember I had a fraction of a second in which I was very tempted to play something which would have been an utter catastrophe, namely queen to e5, a disaster, because my opponent would have taken. And then obviously I didn't do it. I'm happy actually I didn't play this, obviously, guys. And I said to myself, look, this is an arduous long ending. It's not going to be easy. White queen also has, you know, quite some attacking power here, and I didn't want to force it. The white king is still defending. I mean, it's not going to be an easy win. Okay, it's not going to be an easy stuff here. Yeah, of course, you could play queen to b5, attacking, you know, you try to readjust your pieces, and perhaps, you know, if I manage to get the queen on the second rank, it might be more dangerous for the white king. But I've accepted the draw. So, guys, what I want to tell you, I think Dragodorf is very valid, is very powerful punch that black might be choosing to play against white, especially in the Yugoslav attack. So that was the Dragodorf in action game that I played a few days ago, guys, on chess.com. And yeah, I think that's the second film video I'm doing on the Dragodorf. Drop some comments and tell me if you yourself played it and what's your favorite line or sideline if you do this, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if that's useful to any extent, and I'll see you guys very soon.